Welcome to Season 2 of the Retail Tea Break. My name is Melissa Moore, founder of the Retail Advisor. As a consultant, mentor, trainer and lecturer, I enable retailers and makers to reach their potential through sales growth and excellence in customer experience. I'm also your host of the Retail Tea Break. Each week, I'll be joined by industry experts, retailers and makers to decode the myths, share stories, and their insights into this industry of ours. So if you enjoy listening to the Retail Tea Break, subscribe to the podcast and share it with others in the industry too. So sit back, grab that cup of tea and listen in. Welcome to the Retail Tea Break. Today's episode of the Retail Tea Break podcast is a little different. As someone that's worked in the retail industry for over 20 years and has been fortunate enough to build a successful career out of it, I wanted to hear a little more about what the next generation of retail looks like. Also, having just spent the last semester lecturing in retail, I really appreciate the value and the importance of education and what it brings to the industry. So, Oran Doherty from Retail Ireland Skillnet, welcome to the Retail Tea Break podcast.
Hi, Melissa. Thank you for having me on your excellent podcast. Really looking forward to speaking to you.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to this. As I say, like, education for me has always been important, but the link between education and retail seems to be getting stronger and stronger. So before we get into all of that, in the age-old tradition of this podcast, in the time that it takes to boil a kettle, which I'm told is about 2 minutes, tell us a little about you and your background.
Thanks, Melissa. Well, I suppose my name is Oran Doherty. I'm employed by Retail Ireland Skillnet as the Apprenticeship and Retail Supervision Manager. I suppose I've been employed in education and training now for over 20 years. I started lecturing in Galway, but like yourself, started lecturing in Galway 2003. I had 3 great years in Galway, lecturing marketing, advertising and public relations. Then in 2006, I joined Letterkenny Institute of Technology, or LYIT, where I was employed as the Recognition of Prior Learning and Work-Based Learning Coordinator from 2006 to about 2016, I think. And that job mainly involved working closely with industry and designing training and education programs for those in employment. And I suppose that's where I really got started engaging in the retail sector. I was heavily involved in the design and delivery of a very innovative degree in retail management practice. That involves significant engagement with the leading retail organisations in Ireland, and really enjoyed that role. There was a great appetite amongst the retailers for training and education, and they really got behind that degree programme. Stayed in the LYT to about 2016, and then I began working with the Department of Education and Skills as the Regional Skills Manager for the Northwest of Ireland. And again, that job mainly involved promoting collaboration between industry and education providers. Then in 2019, I began working full-time with IBEC and Retail Ireland Skillnet as the manager for the Apprenticeship and Retail Supervision Programme, and I've been here since, and I must say I really enjoy the role. Very lucky to work in such a great team of colleagues. In Retail Ireland Skillnet, we get on really well together, and work is very enjoyable.
Oh, you have a great team there. I know I've spoken and met some of them over the years. So look, for any listeners that maybe don't know, explain a little bit about what Retail Ireland Skillnet is and what you do.
Very good, Melissa. So I suppose Retail Ireland Skillnet, it's like a college. We specialise in providing training and education to the Irish retail sector. We've been in existence now for just over 20 years. We're funded by the National Training Fund, and we provide highly subsidised training to both retail employers and retail employees. I suppose the vast majority of Ireland's leading retail organisations will engage with us for training and education. We engage with all types of retailers: grocery, fashion, pharmacy, fuel, food, DIY, you name it. We deal with the very large multinational retailers right down to the very small independent store. We've quite a number of training programs on offer. Hopefully the two we talk about a bit later on are our apprenticeship in retail supervision and our degree in retail management practice.
It sounds like an unbelievable resource. As you say, you cover all aspects of retail, all the different categories, everyone from the big, as you say, multinationals, those that have multi-sites all over the country, to the tiny little ones on your main streets. It's just an incredible resource that, again, I think some retailers don't necessarily realize is out there or that they can use it.
But tell me specifically about the two courses you mentioned. So there's the apprenticeship in retail supervision, and then there's a degree in retail management practice. Tell us a little bit more about them.
Very good, Melissa. I suppose if I first of all mention the apprenticeship in retail supervision, that's a fairly new program. We started delivering that in 2019. Again, it targets existing retail employees identified by their employer as future managers. They continue to work full time and they attend college 24 days per year for 2 years.
Wow.
And they can do it in either Dublin, Galway or Cork, depending which store's closest to them. And in fact, this year, we're hoping to bring on almost 200 new apprentices. So 200 people from probably 60 different retail organizations from every county in Ireland. So really excited about that.
That's amazing. So just to recap there, you can work and study on the apprenticeship.
It is. It's a really earn and learn approach to education, I suppose.
Earn and learn.
And no, the good thing about it as well, Melissa, I remember when I was in college, I built up quite a bit of debt when I was studying, but these days
Yeah.
now, these programs are, they're subsidized. There's no registration fee. So the people on the course, they're getting this excellent training. They're working full time. They're getting a wage, and even better, their employer have no fees to pay. And in actual fact, for the apprenticeship program, the government has given grants of €4,000 to employers to put people on this program. So it's making it really, really attractive, and it's not too disruptive to the shop floor. It's extremely practical. It's designed for retailers and by retailers.
That's unbelievable. And again, I think I'm so shocked. I'm from old school retail where you kind of just learn from the guys around you on the shop floor, and you might have then progressed because you were in the right place at the right time. But actually, this sounds like an incredible course that if you are embedded with the retailer that you're in, you're loving what you do, you haven't got time then or the finance to go and self kind of fund any sort of extra education to help you climb the ladder. This kind of does it for you.
It is. We would see a lot of people who've maybe been out of education for a long time, and maybe they thought their education days were behind them. They like retail, they want to work in retail, they want to progress in retail, and then I suppose they came across these courses like the apprenticeship and like the degree that does allow them to work full time, have a life, but at the same time get a good qualification, and also to enjoy the social aspect of going to college. As I say, they go to Galway or Cork or Galway and Dublin, Galway or Cork, and whatever location is closest to them. And, they get to meet people from other stores. They go down there to study, they hopefully do socialize, enjoy the student life a little bit as well. That's important. But they're acquiring great skills, great news, knowledge, great skills and great competencies that'll help them in their journey and career in retail.
And actually, that's a really lovely thing you said there. Look, we all know how small Ireland is in that respect. And the networking aspect, I hadn't even thought of until you mentioned it, but actually meeting like-minded retailers from very different avenues, very different categories is fascinating because you kind of never know when they're going to come in useful in years to come.
There's a great learning environment. As I say, you have people from the largest fashion stores to the smallest independent grocery store, from the largest DIY down to the really small, maybe more rural, if you like, store. So great dynamic, great learning environment there. So much energy in the room. You see people making new friends, picking up ideas that worked in another environment that might work in your store. But it does make for a great learning environment where they learn so much from each other. They really do learn. I know you have excellent lectures then to, I suppose, direct those conversations.
What sort of subjects or modules are those lecturers delivering on?
Very good. So I suppose in year one, they would do modules like retail customer experience, retail selling, legal issues, retail IT, retail supervision 1. Then in year 2, then they start off year 2 with selecting 2 modules from the likes of pharmacy, merchandising, food safety, retail security, and they do omni-channel marketing, they do finance, they do another retail supervision module, and finish off the course with a module called Capstone, which is like a mini study on some aspect of retail that interests the apprentice and their store. So it could be doing a 4,000-word study on some new technology that their store could consider purchasing, or some merchandising idea, or some new security initiative. So really something that's of interest to both the learner and obviously to the employer. But they tend to really love that module. It's about showing all the great skills they have acquired up to that point, I suppose, and putting together a report full of practical recommendations for their employer to consider.
That's incredible. So not only are you learning such a broad spectrum, again, I'm kind of sitting there quite jealous. I wish there'd been something like that in
Oh,
my day,
don't
because
me as
it
well.
sounds like you're really kind of pinpointing those key aspects to grow your career, but also you're probably learning about aspects maybe like security that you've probably never delved into before yourself in your retail career, but it's opening that door and it's probably giving you an insight into something that you might never have thought that you'd enjoy. But then that capstone kind of finishing project just sounds incredible. Like, what a great way for you to show off and utilize the skills you've learned, how good you are in your retail setting, but also bring such value to your employer.
Definitely. It's something we try to do in all the subjects, Melissa. What we try to do is we don't rely too much on exams or traditional case studies. What we see is these people are all in full-time employment and their workplace needs to become the assignment. So when they're
Yeah.
doing a module, for example, if they were doing the selling module, their assignment would be to look at new selling initiatives that their organization could consider. So they come up with practical ideas, discuss it with their mentor. We give them access to a really good library where they can look for maybe some further ideas. And hopefully they're bringing improvements back to the shop floor and showcasing their great talent and their great knowledge that they acquired from the program to their bosses, to their companies, and so on. So I suppose that practical nature of the program, it makes it very appealing to both the employer and to the employee in the program.
Certainly does. It seems like a win-win situation for both parties in that respect. So that's the apprenticeship in retail supervision. The other thing you mentioned there, and I have it written down, degree in retail management practice. So that must be slightly different.
It's slightly different. One thing I should say to start off with is when the guys finish the apprenticeship program, a lot of them will, gain a great qualification, a level 6 qualification in retail supervision. But some of those will want to continue on with their studies and they can continue into year 2 of the degree. So for the further 2 years after the apprenticeship program, if they spent those 2 years joining the degree program, they would also have a degree program. So there's a great transition from the apprenticeship to the degree.
God, that's incredible.
It is. And I suppose the obvious question, what's the difference between the apprenticeship and the degree? Melissa, the apprenticeship is targeting those at supervisory level, whereas the degree is targeting those maybe at a more management level, that level above supervisory, if you like.
Okay.
Again, a little bit like the apprenticeship in many ways, in that, again, it's delivered this time over about 19 days per year for 3 years, the degree program. So some people will join year 1 of the degree. They won't have come through the apprenticeship route. They just want to go straight on to the degree. And as I say, they'll attend college 19 days per year, 12 in the physical classroom in Dublin, and then the other 7 delivered live online. The degree is only delivered in Dublin. We have 60 places available every year. It's probably Ireland's leading retail degree program for the last 10 years. We've the vast majority of Ireland's leading retail organisations would put aspiring or existing retail managers on this program, and again, they continue to work full time and they come to college 2 to 3 days a month for the 3 years.
That's incredible. And actually, I know some over the last few years who've been lucky enough to study it. And again, it gives them this incredible confidence. As you said, they were probably a little bit further on in their career because they'd got into management in some respects, but junior management. And this change I've seen in people that have come through that program, that they literally explode onto the scene. And it's almost like there's just no stopping them once they've graduated, because they really do have this confidence and also this knowledge base and this network that we've just talked about to do anything. Like, it genuinely feels like you're nurturing the future of retailing in this country.
You hit the nail on the head there, Melissa. I think the one word I would use would be confidence as well. Yeah. I would just see people at the start of their journey, and they're obviously very competent people. They've been identified by their employer for the program, so obviously there's something about them. But the transformation over the 3 years of that degree program, especially in their confidence levels, is remarkable. People now have a degree under their belt. It just gives them that confidence, and I suppose they're more competent as well, but they're just more willing to try more risks, try things out, take extra responsibility on. And from an employer's perspective, it's a dream. You're probably getting to keep your best employees for the duration of that program. So it's really, if I'm asking employers, the big benefit of the program, it's all around talent. It's helping talent attraction, talent retention, and talent development. And they're the big challenges, not just in retail at the minute, but pretty much across all sectors. But now we have at long last an affordable degree programme for the Irish retail sector. Again, the apprenticeship's free, the degree is about 70% funded. It costs about $13.50 per year for 3 years. That can be paid by either the employer or the employee, but again, very, very reasonable compared to other degree programmes when you compare the two.
Absolutely. It really is. It does seem like just a win-win. Again, it's the same phrase I'm using because there doesn't seem to be a downfall. And it kind of started to lead me to think, and I was reminded about this the other day, that retail's always just been seen as this kind of stopgap. Everyone's done the Saturday job in retail while they're at university or at college in those very early years. And then some people say, oh, I'll just work in retail as a stopgap to fill time between jobs. And that almost seems to be the perception that retail is just something to fill a gap or to do right now. But from what you're saying, retail really needs to be seen as this long-term career. It's something you can go in, do the apprenticeship if you're enjoying it, start to climb the ladder, get the degree under your belt, and then literally the world's your oyster. It seems like you're really driving this vision that this is a career. This industry has incredible careers. Come and join us.
Definitely, Melissa. Retail is changing so much in the last few years. It's becoming more knowledge intensive. Consumers are becoming more sophisticated. Technology is disrupting the sector. Then you throw in supply chain issues, throw in COVID, throw in Brexit. You can see that it is becoming a knowledge intensive sector. But the benefits of all that is it's opened up a lot of new careers and occupations within the retail sector. If we look at a number of the large vacancies in the sector at the minute, it's probably in areas like e-commerce, merchandising, data analysts, social marketers, visual merchandisers, all these new exciting roles. But all these new exciting roles, I suppose, they need people with qualifications, they need people that have gone through training and education now more so than ever before. We're getting similar to some of the more tech-like sectors. If you look at a lot of those technologies impacting retail, we probably would have associated those technologies with manufacturing in the past. If we look at artificial intelligence, virtual reality, blockchain, all of those technologies are as disruptive to retail as any other sector.
So actually, from what you're saying, we really should, as well as fintech or any of these fancy tech, everyone's talking about the metaverse now, we need to be attracting talent too to this industry, because otherwise it seems like we're just going to get left behind if we do what we always did, or we don't educate, or we don't invest. It's going to fall flat on its face. And that's not just about e-commerce and being online. That's actually our physical store down on our main street that actually we kind of need to just get with the times.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it, Melissa. The companies, the retail companies that are going to do best in the future are the ones that have invested in training, upskilling, talent development, and so on. It's just becoming so knowledge intensive, more so now than ever before. And it's so much reliant on talent. But to get talent and to keep talent, you do need to offer people training and education opportunities. To me, it's probably the single most important indicator of how you attract staff and how you keep staff is what opportunities you're making available to your staff in relation to training and education.
And that's really interesting, because this is something I definitely wanted to talk to you about. Look, from a consumer's perspective, and we're recording this today, and there's all sorts going on out in Dublin Airport there. There's issues in that industry, there's issues in hospitality, tourism around the country right now. From a consumer perspective, I suppose the grumblings I'm hearing is, look, there's no staff on the floor, there's very few staff to serve me, to talk to me, can't get hold of anyone. Or at least there's no staff with that knowledge. In the old days, everyone would have been highly knowledgeable. Do you think the offer of this education, of this piece of long-term investment in people, is a way of attracting kind of the talent? Because do you know what? If the pay is the same across the board, or if the holidays are all 4 or 6 weeks, how are the good retailers attracting people to get them through the door?
Very good question, Melissa. When we talk to our retailers, and we find out the main reasons, the main motives for engaging in either the apprenticeship or the degree program, it comes down to those two words. It's either talent attraction or talent retention. The companies are saying that we need talent, we need the best talent, but to get the best talent, we need to be able to offer something in addition to the wage and the conditions of work. We need to be able to offer them, a career. But to get a career, there needs to be training and development opportunities. There need to be accredited training programs. That's what people want. The people want to work in organizations where there is opportunities for them to build up their CV, to build up the qualifications. And retail is no different from any other sector. Other sectors have had that maybe for 20 or 30 years. We're catching up a little bit in retail, but now more than ever before, you have apprenticeship programs, you have degree programs, you have all these other shorter programs. There's no excuse, I suppose, for retailers not investing in training education, because the training there can be delivered in a flexible way. It's extremely well subsidized at the minute. And I know some retailers will say, look, we don't have the time to release staff. It's only going to get worse, I suppose, if you don't start offering these training and education programs, because more and more of the employees are going to actually leave the sector.
Absolutely. And I think we saw that trickle during COVID, of course, because we were closed. But as you say, there's no excuse anymore. It's funded. There are people, as you said, or it's partially funded. There's such an incredible resource that you have there, whether it's coming to you for a chat about what you might be able to offer a retailer or what you can do for the employees. What's been the feedback like, I suppose, from both the employer and the employee over the last few years for the courses that you've run?
Yeah, we would conduct impact studies at the end of the year for both the apprenticeship and both the degree, to find out, what's working, why is it working, what's the main motives from employers and learners on these programs. And I suppose the general feedback from employers in particular in relation to both the apprenticeship and the degree program is that it really does develop the skills that they need now in the modern retail environment. Again, confidence is coming up all the time when we ask the employers what's the big motive. They see a huge change in confidence, and with confidence then comes competence, and bringing back ideas to the shop floor that leads to improvements. We mentioned earlier on talent, and again, talent definitely comes up a lot in impact studies, both talent retention and talent attraction as motives for employers putting people on our programs. But I think the proof's in the pudding. The employers we engage with, they always come back the next year looking for more places, and they wouldn't be doing that unless it works. So there's a great retention rate within Retail Ireland Skillnet for employers returning looking for more training.
That's fascinating. And that almost is that light bulb moment that they're obviously happy that the investment they're making, and I don't necessarily mean financially, but for the very fact they're allowing their staff members away to college in that respect, they're obviously seeing huge benefits, whether that's financially because sales are growing, or as you say, I'm sure even their internal level of service, the engagement internally, I can just imagine, and I've met some of the guys that have been on the programs, that they're so fired up that I'm sure that really leads to great morale as well within these, within these retailers.
Oh, you're definitely right, Melissa. We hear a lot of employers saying, these programs bring a great energy to the store, not just the person doing the program, but the people, the colleagues of those people lucky enough to be chosen for the courses. They're hearing the benefits of different techniques in marketing, of selling, of customer experience, or technologies, merchandising, security, and so on. So because it's a work-based program, all the learning from the classroom needs to be brought back into the store. So it's not just the actual learning that's benefit from the program, but it's the learners' colleagues, because they're seeing great ideas being put into practice. And often that gives their colleagues an appetite to maybe apply for the program the following year. But I would say, yeah, it definitely does bring an energy to the store. It brings new ideas to the store, and all of that leads to improvements in everything from sales to customer service and you name it.
And therefore you have retention. So this really sounds like it's the key here. You're investing in your people, you're investing in their futures, they're helping keep this happy workplace. And I'm sure at the end of the day, the customer's happy. Have you got any facts, figures, or even any feedback on how the customer really has engaged with people that have been on these courses?
Yeah, well, I think we do, because one of the modules we would do on the program, both programs, both the degree and the apprenticeship, is retail customer experience. And I suppose what we do is we get the learners on both those programs to carry out some surveys in their own store in relation to customer service, and you can definitely see an improvement in the level of service that customers are got as a result, often from ideas brought back from the degree learners or the apprenticeship learners. So to do their assignments, they have to actually try these ideas out in the shop floor. They're not just writing about them, they're implementing them and then reflecting on how those ideas went. But as I say, in the areas like selling and customer experience and marketing and so on, we would see vast improvements in various different aspects of retail as a result of learner effort.
That's incredible. And again, so it seems like you've got the employer who's happy and is winning here. The employee obviously is being nurtured and they're being educated, and then they're learning and putting it into practice, whether they're doing the apprenticeship or the degree program. and then the customer's happy. Like there doesn't seem to be any kind of downfall here. It just seems to be the biggest thing is you need to do it. You need to ring up or email, you need to find out the information, and then you just need to go for it.
That's it. I think the challenge, and it's a very, I suppose you have to respect the challenge for employers and probably employees is time. You know, can we afford this time? My argument would be you probably can't afford not to give it the time in the long term. You know, the more long term, I suppose, view of retail is you have to invest in skills, you have to keep your best people, you have to attract the best people, and I think training and education is probably the best vehicle for that, for doing that.
That's incredible. And I can't let you go without asking. I know there are other courses that you do. So as you say, if companies out there need other sorts of training, so we've got the key ones here, as we've said, the apprenticeship in retail supervision, the degree in retail management practice, but you deliver, or you can deliver, and you have done throughout the year, shorter courses, smaller courses in different areas.
We do indeed, Melissa. You know, the apprenticeship and degree mightn't be for every employee or every employer. Sometimes they maybe want a more shorter, more focused type of training. But definitely take a look on our website, retailirelandskillnet.com, and you'll see we have quite a number of short, maybe 1 to 2 day courses in areas like Canva, which is for graphic design, to create content for social media. We have a 1 day course in customer service and the experience economy. We have other 1 day courses in retail security, a 2 day course in retail supervision, and then we have a really good program in transformational leadership, which consists of, I think, 60 to 90 minute workshops, and looks at areas such as self-awareness, motivation, coaching, problem solving, and so on. But these courses can be delivered at a time that suits the employer, at a location that suits the employer. So we are quite flexible. You know, we work around the employer's needs as opposed to our own needs, and we know we have different provisions for different employers depending on what they prefer.
Fantastic. So it really sounds like, look, if you haven't ever come across Retail Ireland Skillnet before, or you didn't realize that so much of this educational piece was funded, to give you guys a call, or to certainly look up the website, because it sounds like there is something for absolutely everyone. Yes, if you as an employee or an employer want to have the long growth there, the apprenticeship or the degree program, but even if it's a short course, you know, there's fantastic opportunities there to upskill your team, which, as you've said, and I think is so important in this day and age, retention is everything, because if you're investing in your people, they stay with you and they are happy in the workplace, which of course makes your customer happy.
Definitely. I think that sums it up quite well, Melissa. You know, there's something for everybody there. Like we've had people who started off maybe in a 1 day course, they've gone and then done maybe this apprenticeship, but now they've progressed onto the degree, and they've aspirations maybe to do a master's down the road. And that's what you want to see, people taking that full journey with ourselves and showing a bit of trust in us, that they see us as their preferred training partner, if you like.
I love it, because for me, again, look, having been in, like yourself, been around the industry for so long, I've been in this industry over 20 years, it's great. And it's actually so exciting to see the future. Those coming up and kind of chomping at my heels behind me are even stronger, and they're so confident, and there's so much exciting kind of work for them to be doing in the future of the industry, to grow it but also to maintain it. I think that's the scary thing coming out of COVID, is that this industry needs to be nurtured, and as you say, we now have the educational piece to make it happen.
That's it. We're trying to make retail a viable career. We're trying to change it from a job and shop to a career in retail. We notice there's so many opportunities happening in retail, all these new roles coming out. So we want to service that and address that and make it easy for people to move into those roles. And I suppose it's about giving employers an opportunity to realise their potential by upskilling all their staff, and hopefully leading to improvements on the shop floor, if you like.
I love that. It's brilliant. So look, if someone listening in this episode now, I suppose, is super interested. I mean, it sounds brilliant to have this apprenticeship where they're practically, you know, working in the shop and learning at the same time, or the degree in retail management practice for any kind of aspiring management retailers out there. What's the next step? How do they find out more?
I think the best thing would be to get in contact with us. You know, you can go on our website, you'll see our contact details there. We'd be delighted to speak to any retail employer. We can do information sessions on the degree, on the apprenticeship. We can give you a more generic kind of presentation on all our offerings. But you know, we're so delighted to get any retailer employer contact us. That's what we're there for. We're there to service the retail sector, and the more retail employers, doesn't matter what size you are, you know, I'd encourage you to get in touch with us. You know, explore the possibility of offering, you know, training and education courses to your employees. And as I said, we'd be more than delighted to speak to any retailer at all.
How incredible. Give us that website address once more, Oran.
Yeah, so the website is www.retailirelandskillnet.com.
Fantastic. And I'll share that out on my socials when this episode goes out, and I'll share it in the show notes. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm quite buzzed up. It's quite exciting to see all these new retailers coming out through the industry with so much more knowledge than I had at that time. So I really, really appreciate you joining me today, Oran. And look, if you've enjoyed today's podcast episode, please, it's a really important one to like and to share and to pass on to any friends you might have within the industry, to any inspiring future retailers out there. Share this message. It'll be an incredible opportunity to get your employees, even your friends, your family, either onto the Apprenticeship in Retail Supervision program or the Degree in Retail Management Practice program. So Oran Doherty from Retail Ireland Skillnet, thank you so much for joining me today.
Melissa, thanks very much. It was a pleasure. Thank you now.
Thank you.